We trust the lamb, not the donkey or the elephant.
So in the book, you use the word foreign as an acronym to help understand Gen Z. So can you just walk us through that
Yeah.
acronym and help us get our mind around Gen Z, kind of a large scale picture?
Yeah, absolutely. Some of these words I'm about to give you listeners may seem very edgy, and some of them are edgy, but they're all data based. So the letter F in foreign is this generation, Gen Z, is more fluid in their sense of identity than any generation before them. You probably hear this or know this if you look at what's happening in schools. Kids are not necessarily binary, they're fluid, they're choosing what gender they are, etc., and what kind of person they want to be. So teenagers have always not quite been sure about who they are, but it's really fluid right now. It may be changing from month to month. The letter O is overwhelmed. Mental health issues are greater than they've ever been with young people, middle school, high school, college. In fact, the number one word that college students use today to describe their life is the word overwhelmed, 94%. So we've got to figure this anxiety thing out. Bosses, employers, teachers, coaches, and moms and dads, we got to figure this thing out. The letter R, reinvention. So Gen Z doesn't just want incremental change or tweaks to the world. They want to reinvent it. We saw protests, did we not, in 2020? That was a picture of, we need to reinvent this. I think many young people look at our generation kid and go, how'd you let this happen?
They for
How
sure
did you
do.
let this happen? Whatever it is, racism or whatever. So just know, you want to tweak it maybe, they want to reinvent the whole thing. The letter E is entrepreneurial. This is fascinating to me. 72% of public high school students in America, 72% want to be an entrepreneur. So they want to start something, not just join something. And part of the reason is they look at our companies, our churches or whatever, and they go, I don't want to join that. I want to start something else myself. So right or wrong, let's say you're an employer listening. How could you create gig economies inside the workplace where it feels like they can be entrepreneurs in something even larger? It's just huge. In fact, I don't know. I don't know if you want to volley back on that one, but I just think that's a huge issue. I don't know what do you see where you live on that?
Well, I'm a pastor of a church, and so
Yeah.
we have tried to figure out how do we resource people to do things they're passionate about as opposed to just doing what we tell them from the top down. And they're going to have better ideas about how to influence their culture than we are. And so what we see is people in Gen Z picking up ministries and running forward with them in ways that we probably wouldn't have even thought of, much less had the courage to practice. So I agree completely with you.
Yeah, isn't that interesting? So the letter I is independent. They are, unlike millennials, more independent in their growth and learning. So millennials played soccer in teams and even learned with teams. Gen Z, thanks to the pandemic especially, was forced to learn alone on a device, or a screen. So we need to get ready for at least their natural habitat would be now they need community, they need each other, but oftentimes aren't even quite sure how to do a healthy relationship. I don't mean to sound insulting, but we've not conditioned them, we've not socialized them well, thanks to things that have just happened growing up.
Well, isn't that kind of the Minturn thing, the reverse
Yes.
mentoring? So some generations, maybe you and I, we had the opportunity to live in community, like you were describing, people sitting around the television set. And so we had people to ask questions to. But now what I'm seeing that Gen Z doesn't come and necessarily ask you a question naturally. They might want to, they just don't have those kind of relationships. And you can just go to Google and you can ask Google your questions. And so it seems like that we can win if we can set people up to be in relationship that they crave that, but they also need it, because that's where you learn, how do I balance my checkbook? How do I decide where to go to school? How do I make decisions? Who do I marry? How do I handle conflict in my marriage? Those are the kinds of questions that Google can't answer. They require wisdom of other people.
No doubt about it. In fact, I was just doing a radio interview where the host said she talked to her nephew, who's a 20-something, and he said, I don't know how to talk to people. I've forgotten how to talk to people. Isn't that interesting? Now, I'm not saying that's everybody, but
Sure.
he was admitting, I don't know how to do this interaction thing, or it's work. All right, so the letter G in foreign, I I use the word geek. That's probably an antiquated word, but I was describing the natural connection they have with being connected technologically. By 2020, 90% of toddlers had a tablet or were on a tablet. 75% of kids today own their own device. So this is normalized. They're going to be much more at home with a screen, maybe, than a face-to-face conversation. But that's it. And then the letter N in foreign, networked. So again, that's a kind of a 90s term, but they are so well connected globally. So even though they might not know how to do that face-to-face conversation with somebody except on Match.com or whatever, they're so networked all around, and it's very natural for them to work that network, whether it's on a social media platform or just a device with instant messaging that we need to get used to.
Hey, I'm Keith. Thanks for watching the video. If you're interested in ending tribalism like we are, we have a podcast and a book. Both are called Truth Over Tribe. You can listen to the podcast on Apple or Spotify, and you can get the book off Amazon. I hope you'll check them out.